some of the things that we talked about, it being the items, backlog items or requirements or user stories or features or who knows what, okay, and that we have the card, confirmation, and conversation model where the code should pass the user story acceptance tests and thereby presumably deliver what people want, okay? And we said that there were lots of things that people refer to. Some people consider user stories to lead to use cases, and other people consider use cases to lead to user stories. Okay? Once again, inconsistencies like this indicate potential problems. Okay? And we said that many user stories were written inappropriately or could be written inappropriately. And so now we're getting to the filling station attendant. I want a gas pump so I can pump gas. Okay? And so we've got, let's see, we've got some who give us comments. Let's detail. Okay? So not much detail is sort of the nature of user stories. That's considered the strength, and the detail comes in through a combination of breaking them down into smaller user stories, if that's appropriate, and user story acceptance criteria, but primarily whatever it is that occurs in those conversations. So let's see. Mattleberry says most people can quickly pump their own gas, more able to serve multiple customers. So that's an excellent example of the fact that I want a gas pump as a filling station attendant. Well, what about all those people who are not filling station attendants who also need to pump their gas? Okay, let's see. Casey says, what type of gas? How are you selecting the type of gas? How are you accepting payment? How are you calculating amount times price per gallon? How much gas? How often? Presumes an implementation. Should be, I want to pump gas. Ah, excellent. Okay. So we've got kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy here, right? I want a gas pump so I can pump gas. Well, duh. Maybe pumping gas is not right. Okay, could you pump gas without a pump? Maybe. Okay, and let's see. Say a higher level user story would be a customer wants to put gas in their vehicle. Very good. Okay, so people have identified a number of issues with this user story, and as I said, this is kind of not all that different from some that some of the supposed experts were using, and certainly I'm sure ones that some of you may encounter. So let's see now why. So I'm not advancing. Why is that? So there we go. Okay. So who knows what's happening in the magic world of technology here. So here are some user story acceptance criteria. Okay, displays the gallons dispensed, price per gallon, and total dollar cost, resets gallons dispensed and total dollar cost to 0. Price per gallon can be set or modified. That addresses or begins to address some of the comments. Any other issues with these user story acceptance criteria? Okay. If you have any additional thoughts on these, okay. These are helpful, okay, but there's a real question as to how thorough and adequate and what else there is. So some of you may be familiar with BABOK, the business analysis body of knowledge. You may be conversant with other requirements, standards, or bodies of knowledge. Okay, I'm just going to reference what BABOK describes, and BABOK captures very common concepts and practices. And so BABOK says to do a number of things, including elicitation. And BABOK doesn't say elicitation should be a passive activity. One elicit passively, basically taking dictation, okay, and be consistent with BABOK. And that's especially true when you're eliciting information from senior executives about business objectives, okay? But it's also true when you're eliciting from those more directly involved, okay? Because very often what people are asking is, describe to me the features that you want me to implement. So an article several years ago was a featured article on the Requirements Networking Group website called Should BABOK Include Shorthand? Now, Requirements Networking Group has gone out of business, and so as did the second website where I posted that. So if you want a copy of that, the only reliable source at this moment is contacting me for a copy, and I'll be glad to send you a copy by email. Okay. So BABOK makes a distinction between a knowledge area called elicitation and a knowledge area called requirements analysis. Once again, BABOK and in fact says these are not life cycle phases, but they can easily be interpreted as life cycle phases, and not only that, cycle phases that are followed sequentially. Okay. Now, in addition, what BABOK's requirements analysis is primarily doing analysis focused on the product, system, or software that is expected to be created or built. And my perception is that even people following BABOK very easily and very often do continue to encounter creep, and that creep, of course, is changes to requirements after we think they've been agreed upon, and then invariably the creep is blamed on the users not knowing what they want. Okay. So I'm going to make a distinction from what you may be accustomed to, and certainly what's in BABOK and much of the conventional literature and wisdom on requirements. And I'm going to make a distinction between two types of requirements: business or user or stakeholder or customer requirements. And I use those terms interchangeably because the user's requirements are to do their business, whether it's at work or personal, whether it's for-profit or not-for-profit. And I'm going to distinguish business requirements from product, system, software requirements. I know some of you come from organizations or mindsets where you make distinctions between system requirements and software requirements, primarily based upon whether hardware is included or not. And some of you may or may not speak in terms of product requirements. For these purposes, I'm going to use those three terms interchangeably. I think you'll